Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing our June TBR trim down. So I started off this month with 103 books on my TBR and my goal was to get that under 100. And I started off this month really strong. So the first book I read was Queen of Hearts by Colleen Oakes, and this is the first in a trilogy that I did not have very high expectations for. I bought it from a used bookstore a while ago and just hadn't read it, but it was really good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's a fantasy retelling of Alice in Wonderland, but it's kind of a Queen of Hearts origin story a little bit. So I really liked it. It's very dark. It's very gruesome, so be warned about that, but I did really enjoy it. Next up, I read another book. This was How to Fix a Broken Record by Amina Brown, and this book blew me away. I was fortunate enough to see Amina Brown perform live last summer, so I picked up her book right away at the event that I was at, but obviously I had not read it yet. I picked it up at the beginning of this month because there were a lot of things going on, as we all know, and I just needed some inspiration, and I knew that her book would give that to me. She's Christian, as I am, and it's kind of an autobiographical, self-help Christian book, and it's just really amazing. It's 5 out of 5 stars for me. I was really moved by her stories, and I laughed. It was so funny, and it just kept me engaged all the way through, and I highly recommend it. Next up, my library reopened for curbside pickup of holds, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. So I picked up 3 books from them. I picked up the 2 remaining books in the Queen of Hearts trilogy, as well as the 3rd book in the P.S. I Love You series, except I haven't read the second one. I have the second one on hold, but that one hasn't come up yet, so I can't read the 3rd one, but I have it now. But anyways, I did pick those 3 books up. However, I had to return the 2 in the Queen of Hearts series because someone else had them on hold. I wasn't going to be able to get to them before they were done, so those are still not going to be added to my number. So it's a good and bad thing. They're on hold again now for me, and hopefully I'll get them soon. But next up, I read The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley, and I really loved this book. I picked this up from a little free library in the neighborhood just next to mine, and I knew I was gonna enjoy it because it's a thriller, kind of Agatha Christie-esque in the fact that they are isolated. It's a group of characters, a group of friends isolated at this house in the middle of the Scottish woods, the Scottish wilderness. And so I knew I was going to like it. I really like thrillers that are set up like that. This was a much more psychological thriller than I was thinking it was going to be, but I did still enjoy it a lot. It follows 5 different perspectives. I'm trying to think in my head. Let's see. Yeah, I think 5 different perspectives. It does jump around a lot between different perspectives, and it did get a little bit confusing at the beginning of who was who, and I had to kind of go back and see who it was that I was reading right now, but I did still really enjoy it. There were a couple of things that confused me and that I don't think were fully wrapped up by the end of the book, but overall, it's a really good thriller. It's very fast-paced. It'll have you through it really fast. So I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I did really like it. I'm definitely interested in reading more of her books. After that, I read Farmer Boy by Laura Ingalls Wilder. This is a book about Laura Ingalls Wilder's future husband's childhood. So what's his name? Almanzo. So it's about his childhood, and he grew up on a farm, and his dad was a fairly wealthy farmer for the time. And it's kind of interesting because in this book There are a lot of descriptions of the food that they ate, and especially Almanzo seemed to just be eating all the time. And it made me think it's kind of an interesting thing because he was very wealthy and they had food all the time, and Laura Ingalls Wilder, her family was very poor and they had to work really hard, and sometimes they didn't have, you know, they had food but they didn't have a ton of food. They didn't have extras, you know, they kind of got by with the bare minimum that they could. And so I think that played a big role in the way she wrote this about his childhood and about the food that he ate. Unfortunately, it was not one of my favorites to read because it did seem to just sort of drag on, and there were definitely some interesting things in it and I did enjoy it, but not my favorite of Laura Ingalls Wilder books, unfortunately. It was 3 out of 5 stars. It was still good. It was cute. Had some good life lessons in it, but not her best. Next up, I borrowed the audiobook for A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, and then promptly listened to it. I really enjoyed this book, and the audiobook was pretty good. I will say I think it would have been possibly a 5 out of 5 star for me if I was reading a physical book, because especially at the beginning of fantasy series like this, there's a lot of explanation of who's who and how the political system works and how the magic works, and sometimes I got a little bit confused, especially because occasionally the voices sounded really similar between different characters, and so I would get confused about who was who, and it did take me a little while to get into it, but once I did, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, this is a fantasy book. It's a series. I believe it's a trilogy. It was really good. It was a 4 out of 5 star. Then my family and I went camping, and I had big plans to read a lot more books than I did, but we spent a lot of time on the water and just really enjoyed a week away from electronics and news outlets and just, you know, relaxing and resetting. So, but on that trip I did finish one book, and that was Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This book was crazy. It's a thriller. It's a sci-fi thriller, and that is not usually my genre. I'm not a big sci-fi fan, but I had heard really good things about it, and boy, it blew me away. It's just like, I don't want you to know very much about it, because if you know too much, you're just gonna get spoiled. You should go into it pretty blind, but just know that it is mind-bending and thrilling and just expertly crafted. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this book. I almost gave it 4 out of 5, only because some of the more sci-fi elements and the explanations of things were like over my head a little bit, but it was just so expertly crafted and I couldn't give it less than 5 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read Dreams in the Golden Country by, who wrote this? Wait, sorry. This is by Catherine Lasky, and it's written to be like a diary of this Jewish immigrant girl coming to America in the early 1900s in New York City. So again, this is another one in the Dear America series. If you saw my thoughts about the one I read last month about the Titanic, they're very similar to my thoughts that I had of this one. They're so good. They teach you and give you such a good perspective on historical events that you may or may not have even known about. This one explores obviously being an immigrant, coming to someplace new. It also explores sweatshops and unions. There were also some, at least one in this one, tragic fires that killed many people in sweatshops because the doors were closed, because the employers didn't want people leaving early and so they couldn't get out. It doesn't shy away from those really hard topics, so they're really, really amazing, and I highly recommend that you, as an adult, or your daughters or your sons, read these books, because they don't shy away from the hard topics. They're great conversation starters, and they just give you an amazing perspective on these things that you read about in history. In, you know, we kind of read them in our history books or whatever in a third-person manner. We're on the outside looking in, whereas with this, you really get into the head of this girl that is going through this. And obviously these are fictitious characters, but they're meant to symbolize people who actually did go through this. So it's an amazing series. I highly recommend it. This was, what did I give it? 4 out of 5 stars. Yeah, so good. Then the last book that I finished in the month was Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I love this book. It's interesting rereading this series. I am doing my read-along, which everything will be in the description so you can look down there, but it's just really interesting rereading this series because I haven't read it in a while, and noting all the differences between the movies and the books, and just falling back in love with these characters and the hardships that they go through together, and their friendships and relationships. So anyways, I just really enjoyed it. This one was really good, and it was 5 out of 5 stars. So I went from 103 down to 97, which is pretty awesome. So anyways, I really enjoyed my reading month, and it was really good. But as you guys know, I had a really ambitious TBR for June, and I definitely did not finish all of the books. So I'm definitely going to have to be picking some challenges, and I'm going to show you all the books that I did not finish in June, of which there are quite a few. So let's go through them. Oh, first of all, also, I am changing a rule just a little bit. So you know that when I don't finish a book, then I pick a challenge. Otherwise, I have to get rid of the book. But pretty much I just pick a challenge because I don't want to get rid of any of my books. So the only difference now is that if I started the book in the month that I'm talking about, so June, but I didn't finish it, then it will roll over into next month's TBR, and if I don't finish it in that month, then I have to pick a challenge for it. So I hope that made sense. Basically, I have 2 books that I started in the month but I did not finish. The first one being Appointment with Death by Agatha Christie, and the second one being The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. You know, I have been struggling with this book. I really enjoy it when I pick it up, but I don't have that drive to pick it up, so I do have these tabs. I was doing really well, and then I don't know, I just put it down for too long and I didn't pick it back up. So I will hopefully be finishing both of those this month, but I don't have to pick challenges for them unless I don't finish them in July. Okay? The other books that I did not finish, nor did I start, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. So there are The Serial Murders by Diane Davidson, The Mystery at Lilac Inn, The Night Circus, Focused, and The Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. So I've got 5 challenges to pick. All of my challenges will add books to my TBR for July, as well as my TBR that I've already shared, which is my Jane Austen July TBR. There are, how many books on that? There are 5 books on that TBR. There will be at least 5 books from challenges, which makes 10, and then these books, which will be 12 books on my TBR. So that's a little bit smaller than last month, but not much. So let's do it. A book by an author with an H name. Let's find one. Let's see. what do I want to... Do I have any books with an H author? Let's... Okay. Okay, I only found one. That's kind of surprising to me, but there was only one author that I have a book of that has an H name, and that is The Pacific by Hugh Ambrose. Yeah, this is a nonfiction about soldiers in World War II. Specifically, I believe that they're Marines, and my grandpa was a Marine, and I love books about Marines, and so I am very excited about this. That it is going to be one that will be longer to get through. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. It will be longer to get through, but I am excited for it. I love, like I said, I love books about Marines, and hopefully this one will be good. Okay, number 2. Of course it is. Okay, this is a book longer than 300 pages. I have lots of those. But which one do I want to read is the question. Okay, so since The Pacific is going to be a heavier book, I'm going to pick up The Royal We by Heather Cox and Jessica Morgan. I won this in a giveaway a few months ago, and I believe it is a romance, and it's over 300 pages, but hopefully it'll be a quick read, and hopefully I'll enjoy it. Okay, number 3. Oh, whoop! This is To Read a Classic. So I have most of my classics stacked up on this shelf right here. I'm going to pick this one. It's called The Single Hound by Emily Dickinson, and this is a collection of her poems, I believe, that some of her family put together after her death, because she had only published a small portion, and they found a ton just in a chest in her room, and so they put together this. It's very short. It's also books of poems, so it'll be a really, really fast read, and I'm excited to get to it. Alright, number 4. Okay, this one is to pick a book from my TBR teapot, which is right here. Yeah, if I pick one that I've already read, I'll just pick a new one, but let's see. Because I don't update this very often. Nancy Drew. Okay, it's a Nancy Drew one, which I don't think I've read. It just says Nancy Drew Jewel Box, so hopefully I can find that one. There you go. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to be reading Nancy Drew, The Clue in the Jewel Box by Carolyn King. And last but not least, okay, this one is to read my lowest rated book. So for that, I'm going to get my phone out. I'm going to go to Goodreads on my physical TBR that I created, and we're going to see what the lowest rated book is. Okay, so I have a couple on here. First of all, Focused is on there because it doesn't have any ratings on Goodreads, which is sad to me, but I'm going to go with the one that actually has ratings, that is rated the lowest, and that one is London After Midnight, which is an anthology. It's a collection of short stories. Oh, and I must have played Clue with it because there's my Clue card. But this is a collection of short stories that has Agatha Christie, P.D. James, Graham Greene, and others that have written stories in this, and it's just about criminal things happening in London. I started this a long time ago in high school, but I never finished it, and obviously it's been a while, so I will reread it from the beginning, but yeah, that's the lowest rated. Also, I forgot to mention that I will also be reading Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban this month, as, again, the third month of my read-along. The co-host is Elizabeth at the Southern Belle Chronicles, and her Instagram will be linked down below. All the information will be down below, but go ahead and go follow her. And yeah, we're going to be reading this month, and this is my favorite from the series. You can see the spine is very beaten up, and it's seen better days, but I love this book, and I'm really excited to read it this month. So not including the ones that are on my TBR for Jane Austen July, here's what my TBR looks like this month. It's actually not that bad. There are 8 books here, 5 books on Jane Austen July TBR, so that will be 13 books. Okay, that's still a lot of books. Anyways, but I will do my best to get through them. There are quite a few short ones, so yeah. So that's going to do it for June's TBR Trimdown. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully I can get through all these books quickly, because I keep adding books that I want to read and want to buy, but not until I read all of these. Alright, I'll see you guys next month with another TBR Trimdown. For now, happy reading. Bye.